Well, greetings and welcome. It's nice to see you, or nice to imagine you. My name is Jonathan Foust, and this is a Dharma talk that is not a recast. We just finished the 10 factors of, no, the 10 perfections, the 10 paramis, and I thought I would throw in a real live talk here on a topic that I have been thinking about recently, which is the difference between luck and karma. And the topic is, does meditation make you luckier? Anyway, it'll be fun. Before we begin, though, a couple announcements. First of all, a thank you to the Insight Meditation Community of Washington for supporting and streaming this talk, and to our producer, Glenn Harrison, for making this technically possible. A big thank you to Rita Moran, our mindful movement leader, who offers her mindful movement class at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, which leads right up here to 7:30 for this talk. We are suspending mindful dialogue, supporting Ray in his process, so there is no mindful dialogue after this talk. This is all offered freely, so no one is denied access. Just a reminder that if you feel inspired to help make sure this is available for everybody, anyone is interested, thank you for your support. And I got a newsletter that I send out every now and then. So that's it. No major big events coming up. Just to say, the link for Mindful Movement is on my Facebook page and on Facebook. And if you would like to make a donation, there's information wherever you look. So that's that. I think what I'm going to do is go right into the talk. So we will not have our our opening meditation. Hope that's okay. It's August and it's a kind of crazy scene right now. So you may recall Neil Armstrong with his the first walk on the moon. There's a story that's associated with him, that when he did his first walk on the moon, he not only gave his famous one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind statement, but he followed it with a couple other remarks, including the usual communications traffic between him and the other astronauts in mission control. But before he entered the lander, he made a remark where he said, "Good luck, Mr. Gorski." Many people at NASA thought it was a casual remark concerning some rival Soviet cosmonaut, but on checking, they found there was no Gorski in either the Russian or American space programs. So for many years, people questioned him. What did the "good luck, Mr. Gorski's" statement mean? On January 5th in Tampa Bay, Florida, while answering questions following a speech, a reporter brought up this question, which had been around for 26 years at that point. And he finally responded. It seems that Mr. Gorski had died, and so Armstrong felt he could answer the question. When he was a kid, Neil was playing baseball with his brother in his backyard. His brother hit a fly ball which landed in front of his neighbor's bedroom window. The neighbors were Mr. and Mrs. Gorski. And as he leaned down to pick up the ball, he heard Mrs. Gorski shouting at Mr. Gorski, "You want sex? You want sex? You'll get sex when the kid next door walks on the moon." So good luck, Mr. Gorski. However, alas, a deeper internet search revealed it's a great story, but it's not true. But it does bring up a question. What is luck? And what is karma? And some people have asked me this question over the years. Are meditators more intuitive than non-meditators? Are meditators more lucky than non-meditators? And this question has really intrigued me. So I'd like to talk about, what is luck? And how do we actually get more lucky in life? So luck typically refers to random events that happen to someone. They can be good luck or bad luck. It's often seen as something that's beyond someone's control, beyond your individual control. Mindfulness, as a reminder, is the practice of being present and fully engaged in the current moment. It's also about cultivating non-judging awareness of your thoughts and feelings and surroundings. So it has both intentional focus, but also a sense of like greater awareness, greater emotional regulation, greater well-being. So I'd like to talk about the difference between luck and karma and how mindfulness may help you to create a clearer intention in your life, which may be tied into luck. How mindfulness may help you recognize and create unexpected opportunities because your consciousness is more free. And then the punchline, how mindfulness helps you respond to life by being more aware of your body, which is a real key, not just to mindfulness, but to making choices in your life, seeing opportunities. So I consider myself a really lucky person. I had imperfect but truly benevolent parents. I grew up on a beautiful farm with lots of animals. I was raised a Quaker, which opened up interesting internal doorways for me. I had a grandfather who made it possible for me to go to a Quaker boarding school and provided opportunities for education I never would have gotten otherwise. I had exposure to meditation at an early age, good friends, living in a spiritual community, so many opportunities and so much grace in my life. So I feel really lucky about all the good things. But when I really thought about it more, I'm also grateful for what grew me in life, for the challenges. Overcoming being a deeply introverted and shy kid, in part from growing up on a farm with animals, being bullied, my chronic avoidance of conflict, my early wounds in my childhood that kind of created self-imposed unconscious limitations, learning how to cultivate more acceptance and self-judgment, learning how to work with anxiety and fear and indecision, and even the physical pain that I've experienced. I've learned so much about opening my heart to others who have gone through pain. So honestly, I'm really grateful for the challenges in my life. So it's a very interesting inquiry, and just a short little inquiry for you, little Zen pop quiz. Right now, if you could just think of 3 things that you're grateful for. Just picture them, 3 things. And now, if you would, think of just 1 or 2 or maybe 3 things of your biggest life challenges and how they have grown you and how you have transformed. It's such an interesting inquiry, isn't it? To be grateful for the grace in our life and to be grateful for what has grown us into greater awakening. So, what is karma? Well, an easy way to think of it is just cause and effect. There's action and then the consequence of action. This whole system of karma is deeply rooted in religion and philosophy. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and in Christianity. Do unto others as they would have you do unto you. As you sow, so shall you reap. This law of cause and effect. But there's a tendency to oversimplify the sense of karma. We think of like, if you do good actions, you'll get good results. If you do unwise actions, you'll get bad results. And that's part of it. But also there's an element in terms of religion and philosophy that underscores a sense of moral accountability. You are accountable for your actions. There's like long-term karma. You know, if you smoke cigarettes for 40 years, the long-term result may be some effect on your health. And then there's the short-term karma. If you skip a meal, you'll get a headache. You're going to get hungry. So this cause and effect. But the interesting element here, and there's so much to tease out, I know I'm going pretty fast, is that karma is also tied into intention. Your intentions, some of these philosophies say, are as important as your actions. No matter what, you come back to your intention. Knowing your North Star, knowing the most important thing, is a very important part of understanding karma. And again, we'll go more into this because it gets very subtle, it gets very, very complex. But when you know what you want, it's going to guide your actions. When you don't know what you want, not so much. So karma is a sort of this whole system of cause and effect. You are the inheritor of past actions according to karma, and you are the creator of actions. So what is luck? Well, if you look closely at luck, luck is tied a lot into belief, and it's tied into superstition. Luck has this quality of being arbitrary and kind of unpredictable. And I heard this great story from a friend. And this was an indigenous group from, I think they were Nordic hunters. And before they would go elk hunting, they would have these antlers, and they would throw the antlers on the ground, and they would read where the antlers fell, and then according to where they fell, that's where they would go to hunt as a tribe. And they did this for generations, countless generations going back. Throw the antlers, see where it tells you to go. And one thought was that the results were utterly random. And so as they looked at it, yeah, utterly random. But here's the interesting thing. Because it was utterly random, they would selectively go to different parts of the land where they would hunt, and they would cull the weakest elk. And it was exactly what was needed to keep the herds healthy and strong. So the absolute random nature of throwing the antlers was actually the perfect thing to keep the whole ecosystem in balance. But luck itself, you could say, has no real moral basis. You're either lucky or you're not. It usually has kind of a worldly focus. It usually has to do with material gain, like winning the lottery, finding money. Luck is kind of beyond your personal control, and it's tied into rituals and superstition. I remember one teacher saying how they went out to start their car in the winter, it didn't start. And they went out again, they tried again, it didn't start. They came back in the house, they unloaded the dishwasher. They went out, the car started. From that day on, they would always unload the dishwasher before they would go out to start the car. So, belief in superstition, how much does it run your life? So when someone has good fortune, we kind of call them lucky, which is really kind of a cop-out. So if you take a closer look at karma, again, there's kind of this oversimplification that I'd like to address a little bit here. I always love that question of like, who is always there when things go wrong? Well, you are. You're also there when things go well. And you may have noticed, I certainly have, that there's a tendency to take personal claim for the good stuff. And then when the bad stuff happens, kind of blame all the outside events. This whole principle of karma, of action and reaction, is very, very subtle. And there's a real reductionism of karma. This whole idea that if something good happens, it's you who created it. But if something bad happens, like if you get sick or get a disease or get in an accident, it's you who created it. So this whole idea of like how you're personally responsible for everything that happens in your life, way, way oversimplified. Because there are these broader energies that we are living in. There is generational karma, the influence of your family on your conditioning. There's cultural karma, your thoughts and actions, how they reflect from the culture in which you were born and raised. There's planetary karma. We're living in a time of incredible transition and climate crisis. It's so much bigger than you. Yoga speaks of the Kali Yuga. These ages of like 5,000 years, and supposedly we're coming into the Kali Yuga, which is a time of breakdown, a time of systems falling apart, leading to a time of renewal. These energies are so much bigger than you. So if you come down with some malady, is it you that created it, or is it the culture that created it? There's so many studies now, so many young people are getting early cancers. Is that their individual responsibility, or is it processed foods? So the you in all of this plays some role, but you're also affected by other causes and other conditions. But back to karma and luck. So karma is your lot in life. You are the inheritor of your karma. And again, these are not only your personal actions, but the actions of your age. But you're also the creator of your karma. That there's something here about willful intention and mindfulness. Luck is something that is completely outside of you, that you have no control over. So what's the relationship? So first we have to look at who we are. Who are you really? And mostly we're identified with our mind. And we're identified with our thoughts. It was Ramana Maharshi who came up with, I think, the best definition of the human mind. That the human mind is like a drunken monkey stung by scorpions. And if you want a better sense of that, just take a look at your web browser history, especially when you're bored or you're tired. When I don't sleep well and I'm not focused during the day, it's horrifying where my mind will go online, and not even online. And of course, this has become more and more chronic with social media and shortened attention spans. It's something I actively work with a lot. Just to notice how my mind, my attention gets fractured so easily, usually around some resistance. So recently I'm trying to create a work journal, like when I'm really focused, just to keep track of where I am and where my attention goes. And I see very quickly that when I get frustrated or I hit a block, there's this downward spiral, my attention gets fractured, I'm looking for distractions. So I'm always looking for ways to help me stay focused and on point. And kind of what I do, I mentioned this before, what's really helpful for me is every morning I have this little ritual, I write down 3 things, and I tell myself if I get these 3 things done, it's going to be a good day. Not 6, but 3. And then I start with the most challenging one when I'm fresh. And there's the endorphin rush of getting it done. It creates a sense of momentum for the next thing. That really helps. I also do the Pomodoro technique sometimes, 25 minutes of focused work with a forced break. That idea of like the riverbanks, that helps me. But maybe the most helpful thing, it's not helpful all the time, it's remembering the why. Why is this important? One of the projects I'm working on is a project on supporting people with chronic pain. It's a challenging series. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of research. But when I come back to why is this important, wow, this could actually help relieve direct and immediate suffering. It gets my juices flowing again. It kind of opens up the limbic brain, kind of the emotional element of it. So, remembering what is most important is such an important quality of mindfulness. And it's a question that if we don't respond to that, if we don't have a sense of that, it becomes very, very challenging because we all need to develop that, our executive function, to know what's important. And then the executive function is deciding what gets done and most importantly, what doesn't get done. What's going to hit the floor to make sure that happens. Recently, we've kind of relocating for the rest of the summer, and my job is to pack the car. We had a specific time to leave. Either I get it done or I don't, and I decide what's going to fit, what's not going to fit. So I really feel, and again, this is just me talking, but I really feel like one of the most important questions for me is, what is the most important thing in my life right now? That question of the most important thing in my life can be broad, but it can also be very deeply in the moment. And I actually find I use this a little bit as a meditation technique. I've kind of shared this before, but just to share like 30 seconds with you. Because I have found it helpful when I sit with this question, the most important thing in my life right now is, there's kind of a gathering of awareness. So I do this as a meditation. Let me give you a little example. It's utterly spontaneous here. So as I close my eyes, and what I do is I ask the most important thing right now is, and then I wait, and then I let something come into my awareness. I'll name it, and then I'll explore the experience of it, and then I will ask that question again. So it goes like this. I'll do a couple rounds. The most important thing right now is to feel my breath. The most important thing right now is to soften once more. The most important thing is to feel the pleasure of arriving right here. The most important thing right now is to reconnect with my heart and what's most important right now. I'm going to stop there. I love this practice. It doesn't take long, but it's like becomes almost this self-guided meditation. So let me just offer this. If you want to try it, if you like, you can close your eyes. Just have your eyes open, and I'm going to ask the question, and then you'll just let some words come into mind, and then explore the experience. We'll do a few rounds. The most important thing right now is, the most important thing right now is. The most important thing right now is. And if you would now, just take a moment and just sense, did anything shift over these last three inquiries? What's the quality of presence right now? And if you like, you can open your eyes. And so here's the thing around karma and intention versus luck. If you don't know what the most important thing is, then anything that arises can be a possible activity. If you do know what the most important thing is, you will naturally start to sort your experience. So when anything that arises may be the most important thing, this is kind of the source of our stress and suffering. When there's a lack of clarity about what is most important, your attention becomes incredibly fractured. At least mine does. There's that classic thing when you're exploring relationship, and this is just a good example. You can do this anywhere, but when you are exploring relationship, it's such a helpful practice to get brutally honest and write down your must-haves. Like, what are the non-negotiable things you would want in a partner? What are the must-haves? And then also equally important, what are the can't stands? Like, what are the deal breakers? If you're really honest about your list, and it's important to be honest and petty, what many people note is when they're done with that inquiry, the must-haves and the can't-stands, they have effectively screened out about 99.78% of humanity, which is a little depressing. When I did this exercise a couple of decades ago, it was like, oh my God, I think I screened out everyone. But I also noticed it's really easy to sort. Like, anyone who would have been someone I would have entertained was like, no, it's clear. I'm not gonna fracture my attention by going there. So when you know what the most important thing is, it's a lot easier to sort. And one of the most important elements of being mindful is being mindful of your intention. When you know your intention, when you know your North Star, when you know what you want, it's super helpful. And of course, this is a setup for a lot of frustration because a lot of people just don't know what they want. So I just want to name a really cool little exercise you can try. I'll just sort of name it. We won't do it here, but it's about tapping into your negativity bias. Because what I find, at least what I found for myself, is I wasn't sure what I wanted, but it's pretty clear what I didn't want. So the practice here is to write down everything you don't want. Let's say in terms of your work or profession. Maybe you don't want to feel isolated. You don't want to work with people that stress you out. You don't want to do mundane, unchallenging, boring work. You don't want to struggle financially. So once you know what you don't want, next to it, you write down the opposite. So perhaps what you want, instead of feeling isolated, is you want to feel connected. Instead of working with people who stress you out, you want to work collaboratively with people you resonate with. If you don't want to do mundane, unchallenging work, though, that indicates what you want is something creative and challenging rather than safe and boring. If you don't want to struggle financially, well, you want to find work that actually has some financial reward to it. So it's not a direct match, but it can be an indicator if you're not clear what you really do want. But here's the thing. When you know what you want, you will reset much faster when you have a setback. Because mindfulness opens up this gap between stimulus and response. Instead of reacting, you can respond. Instead of reacting, the prefrontal cortex has the capacity to say, what can I learn from this? Because mindfulness influences your response to positive and negative. A mindful person might handle setbacks, which could be perceived as bad luck, with more resilience and more equanimity. So you can more quickly come back. Now, does this make you luckier? It can look that way from the outside for sure. But to quote Seneca, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And intention is tied into this executive function of how you use your time and how you use your energy. When you really know what you want, you are going to make different choices. And it will be informed from something very, very deep inside. And people around you are going to say, oh, wow, lucky break. Okay. So, along those lines, there's something very powerful around saying no in the face of unbelievable opportunities. If it doesn't resonate, and we'll move into resonance soon. There was an interview I read with Deepak Chopra I found fascinating because he was saying exactly this. There are these inflection points in his life where he was given incredible opportunity and it just didn't resonate. So he said no. And in the face of that unbelievable opportunity, an even more amazing thing occurred in his life. So this whole idea of saying no is quite often saying yes to something else. But we have to have our quality of mindfulness, our quality of self-awareness to really respond to it. There's a story of a high school valedictorian, got accepted to an Ivy League university. But when he went to the campus, he felt the environment was too competitive and too impersonal. So something inside said no, and he turned it down. He went to a smaller liberal arts college. He felt a sense of community, a sense of connection, and he got to connect personally with his professors. It opened up research opportunities, and because of those research opportunities, he got a fellowship. And it not only advanced him personally, but his work became very, very important to him. So what was it that helped him to say no? Another story, someone who was a really experienced investor, and someone approached her about this really trendy startup and all kinds of buzz, a whole high-tech thing. Something in her said no. She had some reservations about the sustainability, about the ethics. Part of her was like, oh my God, this could be big money really, really fast. But something said no. And what happened was, in saying no, she found this opportunity in sustainable agriculture, which was really a passion for her. So she threw herself in and became very successful. Also with a sense of personal satisfaction, a sense of steadiness. When people divorce or when people break up, I can't help but ask this question. When did you know it wasn't going to work? And 85% of the time, people will say, I knew in the beginning. But they overrode it. People I know who will jump into a business opportunity and something inside says, look out, I don't think so, but something overrides it. So I'm wondering if there are any times in your life when you said no to something and maybe something better came along. Because always when you say no, you're saying yes to something else. So again, here, mindfulness leads to better decision making. When you're fully present and aware, you will make better choices. And again, sometimes from the outside in, it's going to look like luck. So this becomes a very interesting piece because, as the saying goes, the more you've got going on in your life, the more you need to be on retreat. The executive function, which we all have, is something we can develop, but the executive function is this dance of having clarity, but also being highly intuitive. An executive is someone who has to decide what you're not going to do, what you say yes to, what you say no to, and also kind of sensing what's coming over the horizon. So with mindfulness, you are going to sort much, much better when you know what you want, when you know what you don't want, and when you have self-awareness. You will become more attuned to positive events, more attuned to opportunities you might not see, which is going to look like you're luckier. But then the question becomes, how do we get to that place of knowing? Oof, it's a really, really rough one. Because sometimes you just never have a clear sense of what to do. And that's another talk. But I remember being with someone who was like, oh, do I pursue this relationship? Do I not? And I found myself saying what someone said to me years ago. If you pursue this relationship, you'll always wonder, was there someone else? If you don't pursue this relationship, you'll always wonder, was this the person for me? But ultimately, really, what it comes down to is the foundation of knowing, which is somatic awareness. That is to say, to be mindful of the felt sense of your body. Mindfulness of body, mindfulness of thought, mindfulness of belief, mindfulness of habits, mindfulness in general. When you are awake and aware, that's the whole foundation to all of this, in my personal opinion. There's so many people I've met over the years who they engage into a mindfulness practice. Again, it doesn't have to be meditation, but they engage into something to help cultivate this sense of non-judging awareness, and their lives start to change. And they'll realize, I've been doing this job for 20 years, I can't do it anymore. Or they'll say like, wow, my friends are changing. Or they'll realize like this activity I used to do it no longer makes me happy. And I would guess in your practice that there were things that really lit you up 10 years ago that maybe don't light you up anymore. And then the question becomes, well, what lights you up now? What is it that enlivens you now? So when it comes to using your body as a tool for discovery, as a tool for coming into the present moment, as a tool for making decisions, it becomes so interesting, because there's this whole concept that the body doesn't lie. And part of our practice is to attune to and decode what this felt sense of the body is communicating. So, for example, if you like, you can close your eyes. This is a real quick Zen pop quiz. Let's say you want to decide what you're going to have for dinner, your next dinner time. And let's say you've got to choose between skipping a meal. I'm going to make 3 choices. Skipping a meal, ordering in Japanese, and ordering in Indian food. If you were to choose one of those, which one right now would you choose? Now, chances are, as you're making this decision, you're actually checking in with your body. Which one just feels right? Which one resonates right now? There's so much more to say about this, and I only have a few minutes left. But this practice of mindfulness, and again, the foundation of this practice of mindfulness is being mindful of the body. Now, what does that actually mean? Your body is responding all the time. You get on an elevator and you're going up a couple floors, and imagine on one floor, someone kind of creepy gets on. The elevator closes. The felt sense, how your body holds that experience, might be you have a little more of a tightness, a clench, a self-protected energy. And let's say you go up another floor, that person gets off, and your best friend from kindergarten steps on the elevator, chances are the felt sense of your body will be open and responsive and enlivened, maybe even ecstatic. And when you really pay attention to the felt sense of your body, it's responding all the time. Closing, opening, closing, opening. It's this very alive tuning fork that's responding to life. And this felt sense of the body, it holds the moment in your experience, it holds emotions, it holds thoughts, it holds beliefs. Everything resonates inside. What mindfulness practice does is it will reduce stress, it'll improve your overall sense of well-being, and it will absolutely sensitize you to the felt sense of your body. What some people might interpret as good luck is this inner attunement to the most important thing, to your capacity for executive function, all through this awareness of the body. So how do you cultivate this? Having a practice, of course, is so important. Some regular practice that helps you to be more present, focused, being aware of the breath, being aware of judgment. As the classic teachings say, having a daily practice, having times when you can step back, being around like-minded people is of immeasurable impact. While mindfulness doesn't control luck, it can directly impact how you perceive and how you respond to the unpredictability of life. And inevitably, you will become more aware of opportunities you had not been aware of before when you were simply caught in reactivity. So, what is the most important thing in your life right now? Do you have a sense of what that is? And is there a sense of how you can cultivate non-judging awareness? To be open to opportunities that might come your way. To be more aware of what enlivens you, what quickens your spidey sense. To me, this quality of inner listening, of blending intention with inner listening, with non-judging awareness, is the key to becoming, from the outside, a luckier person. I hope you found this helpful. May you be blessed with good karma. May all good things come your way. And may your practice bring you deep, deep happiness. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention.